You know what's strange? Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet, the calmest, most composed, most put-together ones, are also the ones carrying the deepest wounds. They show up every day. They smile, they work, they crack jokes, they never complain. But inside, they're hurting in ways most people will never see. Behind the steady voice is a heart that's been broken more than once. Behind the sharp mind is a memory full of regrets, of what-ifs, of moments they wish they could rewrite. Behind the composed expression is a storm of guilt, fear, shame, trauma, all hidden beneath the surface. And they'll never tell you, because they've trained themselves not to, because somewhere along the line they learned a painful lesson. Vulnerability invites danger. Weakness invites judgment. Silence feels safer. So they carry the weight quietly. They suffer, beautifully. But silence doesn't mean healing. Calm doesn't mean peace and strength. Maybe you're the one who's been silently holding it all together. And if that's you, know this. You are not weak for struggling. You are not broken for hurting. And you don't have to carry it alone. The Stoics taught us to build strength of mind, not by pretending pain doesn't exist, but by facing it with courage and clarity. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that includes the power to see, to notice, to reach out, to stand beside someone without trying to fix them, just to remind them they're not invisible. So as we begin this video, I invite you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, because the people who are suffering the most often speak the least, and your awareness, your compassion, might be what helps someone finally exhale. Let's uncover these signs, one by one. Let's learn how to spot the silent cries beneath the strong exterior. Because in a world full of noise, the most powerful thing we can do is notice what isn't said. Sign number 1. Sudden personality changes. Have you ever noticed someone suddenly change? Someone who used to light up a room with their energy, now quietly slipping into the background. Someone who was once full of jokes, opinions, and warmth, now offering only a polite smile, a nod, a "yeah, I'm fine." And maybe you told yourself, they're probably just tired. Maybe they're going through a busy phase. They'll bounce back. But weeks go by, and the spark never returns. This, right here, is often the first sign of hidden suffering, a sudden shift in personality. Now, I'm not talking about subtle, gradual changes that happen over years. I'm talking about noticeable shifts. A once expressive, outgoing, or emotionally open person who becomes withdrawn, muted, guarded. And here's the thing. Most people don't notice it. Or worse, they misinterpret it. They assume this shift is personal. Did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? They've changed. I guess they don't care anymore. But what if their change isn't about you at all? What if it's not rejection, but protection? You see, when someone goes through a painful internal experience, like the loss of a job, the betrayal of a friend, the collapse of a dream, the grief of a loved one, they often don't know how to express it, especially if they've been conditioned to be the strong one, the reliable one, the one who holds everyone else together. So instead of reaching out, they retreat. Instead of crying out, they close off. Instead of saying, "I'm hurting," they say nothing and simply begin to fade. This isn't attention-seeking. This is self-protection. Because sometimes when pain gets too loud inside, the only way to survive is to go quiet on the outside. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a man named Eric. He's the life of every party. Always joking, always asking how others are doing. He's the first to help when someone's in crisis. But then Eric gets blindsided, laid off after 20 years, with no warning. To make things worse, a close friend betrays his trust. Suddenly, Eric stops showing up. He doesn't text back. He cancels plans. When you do see him, he's distant, different, and unless you know what to look for, you might assume he just doesn't want to be around anymore. But beneath the surface, he's drowning in disappointment, shame, and fear. Because for many people, when life hits hard, they don't yell. They disappear. This is what the Stoics understood so deeply. They didn't expect people to always be outwardly strong. They believed in internal resilience, but also in graceful presence toward others. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, when another blames or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their soul, penetrate inside and see what sort of people they are. You will realize that there is no need to be racked with anxiety that they hold any particular opinion about you. In other words, don't take someone's silence personally. Look deeper. They might be battling demons you know nothing about. So what can we do when we notice someone's personality has shifted? First, don't force them to open up. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to push for answers. But you do need to be present. Sometimes just saying, "I've noticed you seem quieter lately. I'm here whenever you want to talk," is enough to open a door. And if they say, "I'm fine," you don't need to challenge them. Just respond with, "Okay. I just wanted you to know I care." That one sentence, genuine, pressure-free, can do more than 1,000 questions. Second, stay consistent. Don't disappear just because they're pulling back. Don't take it personally. Check in once in a while. Send a kind message. Invite them to something low pressure. Even if they say no 10 times, just knowing someone hasn't forgotten them can be the beginning of healing. Third, and this one's important, don't judge what you don't understand. They may seem cold, lazy, distant, or even rude, but behind those walls might be trauma, burnout, shame, a broken sense of self-worth. Remember, people who are suffering often don't show their pain the way we expect. They hide it through silence or routine, or even sarcasm and laughter. It's not our job to diagnose, but it is our job as fellow human beings to see each other, to witness, to stay. The Stoics taught that we cannot control others, but we can choose how we show up. We can choose patience, compassion, presence. So if someone you love is changing before your eyes, don't walk away in confusion. Lean in with understanding. Ask yourself, what might be happening beneath the surface? What pressure might they be under? How can I offer space without abandonment, support without intrusion, and maybe most importantly, have I ever been in their shoes? Have you ever had to smile through pain? Have you ever felt like you couldn't afford to fall apart, so you just shut down? Then you understand more than you think. So here's the takeaway. A sudden change in personality isn't always about loss of interest. It may be about a loss of self. It's not rejection. It's a defense mechanism. So if someone is pulling away, don't pull back harder. Don't blame. Don't assume. Stand steady. Be the lighthouse in their storm. Because you never know, your quiet presence might be the one thing anchoring them in this world. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll explore sign number 2, unexplained overcompensation, a behavior often mistaken for confidence, but sometimes masks deep emotional wounds. Sign number 2, mood swings, irritability. Let's talk about another powerful sign that someone might be suffering in silence. Sudden mood swings and unexplained irritability. It can look like this. Someone who used to be patient, thoughtful, composed, calm, now seems short-tempered, easily triggered. They snap over small things. They lash out at loved ones. They withdraw, then explode. They might even start spending recklessly, drinking more, staying up all night, or making impulsive decisions that seem out of character. And from the outside, it's easy to label that behavior as toxic or unstable or dramatic. But what if those outbursts aren't just anger? What if they're signs of inner depletion? Because often, when someone is emotionally exhausted, when they've been carrying stress, shame, anxiety, or grief for too long without rest, without relief, without help, they don't break down in tears. They boil over. Unresolved pain doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like rage. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been so overwhelmed inside, so exhausted by everything you're holding together, that it took only one small thing to push you over the edge? A dirty dish, a delayed text, a traffic jam, a wrong tone of voice, and suddenly you snapped, not because of that moment, but because of everything that came before it. That's not just bad behavior. That's what happens when someone has no more room to process quietly. They erupt, not because they want to, but because their pain has nowhere else to go. And this is what many people miss when they see someone becoming irritable. They assume it's a personality flaw, but often it's a survival response, especially for those who've never been taught how to safely express emotion, who were raised to be strong, stay calm, never make a scene. Eventually, the bottled-up pressure becomes too much, and it comes out sideways. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone named Lisa. She's been juggling 2 jobs, taking care of her aging parents and keeping up appearances with friends. She never complains. She never asks for help. But lately, she's different. She seems frustrated all the time. She rolls her eyes at small things. She yells at customer service reps. She snaps at her kids over nothing. She spends money impulsively, then regrets it. She stays up scrolling at night but can't sleep. And if you're not paying attention, you might say, "Wow, she's become so bitter lately." But if you dig deeper, you'll see a woman who's emotionally running on fumes. A woman whose irritability isn't about anger, but emotional burnout. This is what Stoic philosophy can help us understand. Not just to manage our own emotions, but to recognize the hidden roots of others' pain. The Stoics weren't cold or robotic. They were deeply aware of human emotion. They believed in mastery over reaction, not denial of feeling. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up. Things themselves don't hurt us. Our interpretation does." In other words, don't meet emotional instability with more instability. If someone you care about is lashing out, the Stoic response isn't to fight back. It's to pause. To listen, not just to what they're saying, but to why they might be saying it. It's easy to react with anger when someone snaps at us. It's much harder, but more powerful, to respond with grounded calm. To say, "Hey, you don't seem like yourself lately. What's really going on?" To choose not to mirror the chaos, but to hold space for something deeper. Now, let me be clear. Understanding does not mean tolerating abuse. If someone's mood swings are becoming harmful, verbally or physically, you have the right to protect yourself, to set boundaries, to step away. But if this is someone you love, someone whose irritability seems out of character, and who might be going through something silently, then your compassion can be the mirror they didn't know they needed. So what should you do when you notice these signs? 1. Don't take it personally. Even if their words sting, even if their behavior feels unfair, remember, you may not be the real target. Their pain is. Respond. Don't react. That's Stoic power in action. 2. Offer calm presence. Instead of matching their volume or frustration, lower yours. Ask gently, "You've seemed tense lately. Is everything okay?" Sometimes they won't open up. That's okay. Sometimes they will, and that moment might change everything. 3. Encourage real support. You don't need to be their therapist, but you can say, "You don't have to carry all this alone. Have you thought about talking to someone?" Suggesting professional help isn't an insult, it's respect. It says, "I care enough to want better for you." And if you are the one who's been lashing out lately, if you've noticed yourself becoming more irritable, reactive, or emotionally volatile than usual, please don't shame yourself. Instead, ask, "What is my pain trying to say right now? What have I been holding in for too long? What do I need that I've been ignoring?" Because anger is not always the enemy. Sometimes it's the alarm bell of the soul, telling you something inside needs your attention. And like the Stoics taught, true power is not in suppressing that signal. True power is in recognizing it and responding with wisdom. So the next time someone lashes out, pause, breathe. Choose calm over chaos, because the people who hurt the most often speak the loudest through their reactions. And when you meet them with grounded compassion, you don't just avoid conflict, you open the door to connection. Sign number 3. Withdrawal from loved ones. Let's talk about one of the quietest and most misunderstood signs of hidden suffering. Withdrawal, not anger, not sadness, not tears, just absence. They stop texting back. They miss calls. They cancel plans. They don't show up to the birthday dinner, the weekend hangout, or the usual check-in. And at first you wonder, did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? Why are they avoiding everyone all of a sudden? But the truth is, what looks like rejection is often self-protection. When someone starts pulling away from people they love, it's not always because they've stopped caring. Sometimes it's because they're hurting too much to stay connected. Because when someone feels like they're broken inside, the last thing they want is to be seen. They isolate, not to push you away, but to spare you from the weight they're carrying. They don't show up, not because you don't matter, but because they think they don't. It's not about the party. It's not about the group chat. It's not even about you. It's about the silent story playing in their mind. I don't want to be a burden. I don't have the energy to pretend I'm okay. Everyone else seems fine. I don't want to bring the mood down. So they go quiet. They hide. They hope no one notices. But deep down, they're hoping someone does. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine someone named Daniel. A few months ago, he was everywhere, helping friends move, hosting game nights, checking in with everyone. But lately, no replies, missed calls. "I'm busy" becomes his default answer. Friends start to assume he's just grown distant. Maybe he's found new priorities. But what they don't see is that Daniel wakes up every morning feeling like he's barely holding it together. The energy it takes to smile, to make small talk, to be normal, it's just not there anymore. So he fades out. Slowly, silently. And the danger is, no one asks. Because silence, in our culture, is often ignored. But Stoic wisdom reminds us of something crucial. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Marcus Aurelius. That means, don't assume, don't judge, don't take it personally when someone withdraws. Be curious, not reactive. Be present, not pushy. Because withdrawal isn't laziness. It's not arrogance. It's not selfishness. It's pain turning inward. And if we respond with frustration or distance, we risk reinforcing the very belief they're already carrying, that no one really cares, that their absence doesn't matter. But if we respond with quiet presence, with calm, steady, non-judgmental care, we plant a seed. We remind them, you are not forgotten. You matter, even when you're not showing up. I see you, even when you can't see yourself. So how do we support someone who's withdrawing? 1. Don't push. Invite. Instead of saying, why are you ignoring us? Try, hey, just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. No pressure to talk. I'm here when you're ready. It sounds simple, but that message can make the difference between someone spiraling further into isolation or starting to come back. 2. Stay consistent. Even if they don't respond, keep reaching out once in a while. A quick message, a voice note, a memory shared. They may not have the strength to reply, but your consistency tells them, I haven't given up on you. 3. Encourage help, not with judgment, but with hope. Say something like, if it ever feels like too much, there are people who can help. Therapy helped me more than I expected. Normalize support. Because sometimes people don't reach out for help, not because they don't want to, but because they feel ashamed. Your calm encouragement might plant a thought that grows later. And lastly, if you're the one withdrawing right now, if you've been ignoring calls, canceling plans, avoiding people you love, I see you. And I want to remind you, you are not a burden. You are not weak for needing space. You are not broken for feeling overwhelmed. You are not failing for stepping back. But please, don't convince yourself that your absence doesn't matter, because it does. You matter. To the people who care about you, your presence is a gift, not a problem. And even if you don't have the words right now, even if you can't show up like you used to, start small. Send one message. Take one step. Say, hey, I'm struggling, but I'm still here. Because no one can help you if you stay completely hidden. Even the Stoics, those ancient champions of resilience, knew that strength was never about isolation. True strength, they believed, is the ability to stay centered while still remaining connected. To hold your pain, but also to let others carry it with you when it gets too heavy. So whether you're the one withdrawing or the one witnessing it in someone else, remember this. Disconnection is a symptom, not a solution. And the antidote isn't always a grand gesture. Sometimes it's a text that says, no pressure, just here, still care. Sometimes it's choosing to wait patiently without making it about you. Sometimes it's holding space without filling it. And that's powerful. That's Stoic empathy. Not dramatic, not loud, but steady. Sign number 4. When someone stops taking care of themselves. Sometimes the clearest sign of silent suffering isn't in words. It's in what someone stops doing. The laundry piles up. The dishes stay in the sink for days. The fridge is empty except for takeout boxes and expired yogurt. Showering becomes optional. Meals become whatever's fastest, or nothing at all. This is sign number 4, neglecting self-care. And no, it's not laziness. It's not irresponsibility. It's not giving up. It's often a symptom of something deeper, depression, anxiety, trauma, or emotional overwhelm that's quietly taken over someone's life. Because here's what people don't always understand. When someone is struggling mentally or emotionally, even the smallest tasks can feel like mountains. Getting out of bed feels impossible. Answering a text drains energy. Doing the dishes feels pointless. And brushing your teeth, that takes more motivation than most people can imagine. But from the outside, these changes are easy to misjudge. You see someone who used to be on top of everything, who was clean, organized, proactive, and suddenly they seem messy, distant, off. Maybe you think they've really let themselves go. They're just not trying anymore. They need to get their act together. But what if what they really need is grace? Let me tell you about someone we'll call Alex. Alex used to be sharp, tidy, reliable. His apartment was always clean. He meal prepped on Sundays. He showed up early to work, helped others, always had a plan. But then Alex got laid off. Not just from any job, from the one he'd built his identity around for years. And at first, he told everyone he was okay. Just taking time to regroup. I'll bounce back soon. But behind closed doors, things were falling apart. He stopped shaving, stopped cooking, stopped cleaning. The stack of unopened mail kept growing. The couch became his bed. He lost track of days. His friends stopped by. But he always had an excuse. Next week, I'm just tired. Been busy. But the truth, he didn't know how to face them. Because in his mind, taking care of himself didn't matter anymore. Not when everything he'd been working toward had crumbled. That's what people don't always see. Neglecting self-care is rarely about comfort. It's about hopelessness. A quiet, creeping belief that nothing I do matters anymore. And this is where the wisdom of Stoicism becomes so important. The Stoics taught us to care for the body, not as a vanity project, but as an act of discipline and self-respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, when life becomes heavy, the smallest act of care becomes a powerful act of resistance. Brushing your teeth, folding a shirt, drinking a glass of water, opening a window. They may seem meaningless, but to someone who's in a dark place, they are the beginning of reclaiming their strength. So, what do you do when you see someone slipping? When you notice their appearance changing, their space falling apart, their routines dissolving? Here's what you don't do. You don't shame them. You don't lecture them. You don't say, "You should really get it together." Because trust me, they already know. No one wakes up excited to stop showering. No one feels proud of surviving on chips and energy drinks. No one enjoys feeling like a ghost in their own home. So instead, be gentle, be helpful, be real. Say something like, "Hey, I've noticed things seem tough lately. Want me to come over and help with laundry while we catch up? I made a little extra food. Can I bring you some? Want to go on a short walk? We don't even have to talk." Small things, simple gestures, no pressure, no judgment, just presence. Because sometimes what someone needs isn't a motivational speech. They need a hand getting started. One dish, one meal, one small win. And over time, those little actions begin to rebuild the inner voice that says, "Maybe I still matter. Maybe I can still turn this around." If you're watching this and recognizing yourself in Alex's story, if your home feels like chaos, if you've been skipping meals, avoiding mirrors, letting everything slide, please hear me. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're overwhelmed. And that's okay. You're still here. And that means it's not too late. Start with one small thing. Just one. Not for perfection. Not for productivity. But to reignite your dignity. Because every small act of self-care is a signal to yourself. I still matter. My body still deserves care. My life is still worth showing up for. And if you've been supporting someone through this, don't try to solve it all. Don't expect overnight transformation. But do remind them gently that they're seen, that they're still loved, even when they've stopped loving themselves. That they are not a project, but a person, and that even in this messy, foggy season, they're not alone. Because what looks like neglect on the outside is often a cry for hope on the inside. And sometimes, hope begins with a clean cup, a hot shower, or a friend who simply refuses to give up on you. Sign number 5, hopelessness and despair. Let's talk about one of the hardest signs to recognize, yet one of the most important to never overlook: hopelessness. And it rarely shows up with a big announcement. It sneaks in quietly, through offhand comments, through a change in tone, through a strange kind of humor that makes you pause and think. Wait, what did they just say? It can sound like this: I'm just so tired of everything. I wish I could just disappear for a while. The world wouldn't really miss me anyway. If I didn't wake up tomorrow, who'd care? Sometimes it's said as a joke, sometimes with a laugh, sometimes it's buried in sarcasm or dark humor. But if you're really listening, you can feel the shift. You can sense that the laugh doesn't reach the eyes anymore. That the jokes aren't just jokes. They're calls for help, disguised as punchlines. Take Jordan, for example. After his parents' sudden divorce, everything seemed fine on the outside. He kept showing up. He still made people laugh. He still went to work. But his humor changed. He started making darker jokes. He'd casually say things like, "What's the point anyway?" Or, "Maybe I'll just vanish one day and no one will notice." At first, people laughed it off. They thought, that's just Jordan being edgy. But behind the humor was a heart growing more hopeless by the day. He stopped making future plans. He started isolating. And slowly, despair began to take hold. This is how hopelessness works. It doesn't always come with tears. It doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it wears a smile, a mask, a joke. And here's the truth. Hopelessness is more dangerous than pain. Because pain says, this hurts. But hopelessness says, it will always hurt. So why bother? It convinces people that nothing will ever get better, that no one would understand, that asking for help is pointless. And that's how people slip away, while still showing up in the room. This is where Stoic wisdom offers a powerful lens. Not to minimize the darkness, but to help anchor people back to the light. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." But someone in despair doesn't feel that privilege. So our job isn't to preach positivity. It's to notice, to stay, to listen. Because when someone starts expressing despair, they're not always asking for answers. They're asking for presence. They want to know, is anyone really listening? Does anyone even notice? Do I matter enough for someone to check in without me asking? And if you hear these warning signs, however subtle, don't dismiss them. Don't say, "Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. You're just tired. You always joke like that." Instead, pause, look them in the eye, and say, "That sounded a little heavy. Do you want to talk? I heard what you said, and I care. What's going on?" And if they brush it off, ask again, not forcefully, but consistently. Because one calm voice can cut through the noise of hopelessness like a lifeline. Now, I get it. It can feel overwhelming to respond to someone in despair. You might think, what if I say the wrong thing? I'm not a therapist. I don't know how to fix this. But here's the truth. You don't need to fix it. You just need to be real. Be steady. Be there. And when the time is right, Gently encourage professional help. Say, "I've been worried about you. Talking to someone helped me before. I think it might help you too." Not as pressure, but as a pathway back to hope, because despair thrives in isolation. But it weakens in the presence of someone who refuses to let you disappear. And if you're the one who's been feeling this way lately, if you've been cracking jokes to cover the numbness, if you've thought to yourself, "Why am I even here?" I need you to hear this. You are not a burden. Your presence matters. Your pain is real, but it is not permanent. And you don't have to walk through this alone. Even the Stoics, who valued strength above all, understood the need for support. They believed in inner fortitude, yes, but also in community, clarity, and courageous conversation. They knew that life would bring storms. But the wise man doesn't stand in the storm alone just to prove he can. He seeks shelter. He asks for help. He finds people who hold the rope when he's slipping. So if you're hurting, don't hide it behind humor. Let someone in, even just one person. That step might feel small, but it's how hope begins. Not with fireworks, but with a whispered, "Hey, I'm not okay." And if you're on the other side of that moment, if someone opens that door to you, don't walk past it. Pause. Listen. Be the proof that they're not alone. Because behind every dark joke, every sigh, every "I'm fine, that doesn't sound fine," there might be a soul quietly slipping away. But your presence, your real, calm, caring presence, might just be the hand that pulls them back. Sign number 6. When they stop enjoying the things they once loved. There's a quiet kind of suffering that rarely makes a sound. It doesn't shout. It doesn't cry. It simply fades. You see it when someone who once lit up around music or art or hiking now shrugs it off. You invite them to that weekly game night they used to love. Hey, maybe next time. You bring up that band they used to be obsessed with. I haven't really been listening to anything lately. You ask them to come out, take a walk, join in, try again. And they just say, "I'm not really into it anymore." This is sign number 6, loss of interest in enjoyed activities, also known as anhedonia. And it's one of the most heartbreaking signs of hidden suffering. Because it's not about chaos. It's not even about sadness. It's about emptiness. A kind of numbness that replaces joy with apathy and makes life feel muted, colorless, and hollow. And from the outside, it's easy to misread. You might think, they're just being lazy. They've changed. They must not care about me anymore. But in reality, they're not pushing you away. They're not choosing boredom. They're not just in a funk. They're caught in something deeper, a slow emotional shutdown, often caused by untreated depression, chronic stress, grief, or trauma. Because when the mind is overwhelmed and the heart is exhausted, the first thing to go is often joy. Not because it's unwanted, but because it no longer feels reachable. Let me tell you about someone we'll call Maya. Maya was once deeply passionate about painting. It was her escape, her joy, her voice. She painted every weekend. Even on bad days, she'd find solace in her colors. But then, life got heavy. She lost someone close to her. And slowly, the brushes stayed in their drawer. The easel sat in the corner. Weeks passed, then months. She told herself she was just busy. But deep down, she knew the truth. She didn't feel anything when she painted anymore. And when that joy disappeared, it felt like a part of her disappeared with it. She stopped trying. This is what anhedonia looks like. Not a dramatic fall, but a slow, quiet unraveling of everything that once made someone feel alive. The Stoics spoke often about suffering, not as something to avoid, but something to face with clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But when someone is going through this kind of emotional disconnect, that strength feels distant. They don't believe in their own mind anymore, and they certainly don't believe in hope. So what can we do? How do you help someone who doesn't feel like themselves anymore? The first thing is this: don't push. Be present. Don't say, "Just get up and do something fun." You need to get out of the house. You're being so negative lately. Because the truth is, if they could feel the joy, they would. They haven't chosen this numbness. So instead of pressure, offer presence. Say, "I miss seeing you light up around music. I'm here if you ever want to listen together again. No expectations. I just wanted to check in." And then, be willing to sit in the silence. Because what they need isn't a cheerleader shouting from the sidelines. What they need is someone willing to walk slowly beside them, even when the road feels flat. Next, encourage self-care, not perfection. Invite them to take one small action, one short walk, one fresh meal, one moment outdoors, one song, one memory, one breath. These small sparks won't reignite everything immediately, but they are reminders. There's still something inside you worth caring for. And finally, when the time is right, gently encourage therapy. Say, "You've always been there for others. I think it's time someone helps you too." It's okay to get support. You don't have to figure this out alone. Because healing doesn't happen in isolation, and joy, real joy, doesn't return overnight. It's rebuilt, one tiny thread at a time. And if you are the one feeling this way, if you've stopped doing the things you used to love, if even the idea of trying sounds exhausting, please hear me. You are not lazy. You are not failing. You are not broken. You are hurting. And you've been hurting for so long that your mind has tried to protect you by shutting things down. But even if you can't feel joy right now, that doesn't mean it's gone forever. You're just disconnected from it. And you can find your way back. Start small. Start very small. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for energy. Just take one action. Not because you're supposed to, but because your life still matters, even in the fog, even when you don't feel like yourself, even when joy feels far away. And if no one else has said this to you lately, let me be the one. You're still in there. The one who loved music, the one who laughed without hesitation, the one who felt alive in the sun, in the water, in the canvas, in the conversation. That version of you is not lost forever. It's waiting, and your small steps are the key to the return. If you've made it this far, thank you. Because this wasn't an easy video. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't entertaining in the traditional sense, but it was necessary, because here's what I believe. Some of the deepest pain in this world doesn't scream. It doesn't cry for help. It doesn't always look like what we expect. It hides behind calm faces. It walks into work like everything's fine. It shows up to family dinners with a polite smile. It says, "I'm just tired," when asked how it's doing. It laughs at jokes, pays the bills, answers emails, and slowly disappears from itself. And the signs, they're quiet. Sudden personality shifts, unexplained anger or irritability, withdrawal from loved ones, neglecting basic self-care, hopelessness dressed up as humor, a fading passion for life's simplest joys. These aren't flaws, they're distress signals. Signals that something deeper is struggling to breathe. Signals that someone who used to feel whole doesn't anymore. Signals that say, I'm not okay. But I don't know how to ask for help. And you, just by being here, just by watching this, are learning to see those signals. That alone makes you powerful. Because in a world full of noise, where it's easy to miss what isn't said, the ability to notice suffering quietly is a kind of superpower. But knowing the signs is only the first step. The next is how we respond, not with panic, not with judgment, not with pressure to fix what isn't ours to fix, but with compassion, with calm, with the quiet kind of strength that says, I see you. You don't have to carry this alone. You matter, especially when you don't feel like you do. This is where Stoic philosophy meets real-life humanity. The Stoics taught us to accept what we cannot control. But that doesn't mean apathy. It means clarity. We can't control another person's path. We can't erase their pain. We can't solve what's buried deep within them. But we can be the calm in their chaos. We can be the one who doesn't walk away when things get hard. We can be steady, patient, unshakable, because sometimes the most healing thing we can offer someone isn't advice. It's our presence, not noise, not correction, just quiet understanding, the strength to stay. You don't have to be a therapist to help someone feel seen. You don't have to say all the right things to remind someone they're not invisible. You just have to care enough to pause, to notice, to reach out without demand. And if you're the one who's been hurting, if you've watched this video and realized, this is me, let me say this clearly. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not a burden. You are not failing. You're human. You're in a difficult season. You've been carrying more than people realize. You've done your best to hold it together. And maybe now, you don't have to hold it alone anymore. Because yes, awareness is powerful. But awareness is not a diagnosis. It's not labeling. It's not assuming. It's simply saying, I choose to see. I choose to be present. I choose to walk beside you, not ahead of you. We live in a world that rewards appearance, speed, performance. But Stoic wisdom reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. And sometimes, being a good person means slowing down enough to notice the invisible weight someone else is carrying. So here's your invitation. Be the steady hand, the calm voice, the patient presence. Don't underestimate what one kind message, one non-judgmental question, one act of quiet support can do. You might be the first person in a long time who makes someone feel seen. You might be the one who reminds them that hope still exists. You might be the reason they don't give up. And if you're walking this journey for yourself, if you're fighting to hold on to your light, keep going. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to begin again, one small step at a time. Because strength doesn't always look like rising. Sometimes it looks like staying. Sometimes it looks like asking. Sometimes it looks like sitting in the dark and refusing to believe that's where the story ends. So now, as we close this video, this series, I want to leave you with a final thought. You don't need to change the world to change a life. Sometimes all it takes is this: one person who sees what others don't. One person who listens when no one else is paying attention. One person who chooses to be a little more human. In a world that often forgets how, let's be that, together. If this message spoke to you, if you found truth in it, or someone's face came to mind, please share this video. You never know who's waiting for a reminder that they're not alone. Leave a comment, start a conversation, and if you want to keep walking the path of emotional clarity, inner peace, and stoic strength, subscribe to this channel. Because here, we don't just talk about wisdom, we live it with courage, presence, and heart. Thank you for being here. Let's go be the calm,